on my way to Milton Keynes for Mr. Brad Philpott's evening event on the 4th of December 2025. From what I've seen, pretty much everyone that signed up, you had to be a channel member to sign up for it. I really enjoy his content, to be fair, and I'm finding my way back into go-karting. It's been, for those that actually know me personally, it's been so many years since I've managed to do any sort of real go-karting, and to be honest with you, even back then, it wasn't that often I was able to go. So we're nowhere near the standard, I think, of most of the people that are going today. If I look at the profile pictures on Discord of the people that have registered and said they're going, including the people that have gone, I'll be last, I'll be last, I'll be way off the pace, blah, blah, blah. Every single one of them, I'm pretty sure, has got some sort of picture of them go-karting as their profile picture, or they've got like a logo, which is something karting or something racing. So I'm not buying any of it, to be honest with you. Me, on the other hand, being a close to 40-year-old father who works ridiculous hours most weekdays, and yes, it's a weekday today, 4th of December. Let's shut that beeping up just because it reckons I'm over the speed limit, but I'm not. It's 30, it says 20 on a side street. It gets confused. Anyway, haven't been sim racing for God knows, again, if you follow this channel, you'll know, right? Haven't been sim racing for God knows how long. Fingers crossed we'll be back into that early part of next year, so 2026. I will be off the pace. I've never been to Formula Fast, which is where it is. I've watched the track guide for it maybe 5 times. I still can't bloody remember which way the track goes, and it's only a 30-second lap. But whatever. So we're on our way. It's going to take us about 3 hours to get there. So it's going to be a long old drive. It's currently 1:59 p.m. I need to get some fuel. And then it's going to be the long old drive on the way down. So I'll say see you later for now, and I'll catch you when we get to Formula Fast. If I'm early and they've got a spare session, I might try and sneak in a quick practice go, because I do not want to. I don't mind being last. I don't want to be last and lapped, and I don't want to be last, lapped, and I might get lapped anyway, but I don't want to be last lapped and so slow I'm literally like a hazard to people on the track. So yeah, if we're there early enough, I can sneak in a 15-minute session. I'm probably going to pay for it. Well, we made it to Formula Fast, and we made it with enough time to get ourselves in for a quick practice session. This is Q1. Here's the practice times on the screen now. When I first saw what I was doing, and I thought, I'm pretty sure I'm doing like 36-second lap times. When I was checking the lap board, which you probably just saw flash across to the left there, for most of the practice session, I was doing like 36-second lap times, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is going to be absolutely awful. When you watch the track guide, which I linked in the description a little earlier, you'll see that with the old karts, and I'll come on to these karts shortly that we're driving today, but with the old karts, which were well running, very well maintained, Formula Fast is a fantastic venue for anyone that's not been there or just popping into the pits to do a quick practice pit stop. There is pit stops in the races, in the finals. I'll explain that as we go in throughout the rest of the video. Anyway, I was doing like 36-second lap times. When you check the lap guide, with the well-running karts, etc., Jesus Christ, we looked like we were going to be about 6 seconds off the pace. As it turns out, these are brand spanking new karts, so that track guide is, when I say with the old karts, is a little bit off, and actually these not being completely running, etc., you're probably not expected to get the same level of lap time. However, these being brand new karts, and when I say brand new, literally 2 days before this event, the karts were delivered. They're so good. I've never felt karts feel so tight, and certainly not from a rental perspective. As you'll see on the outside of the track, they do BRKC events here, so the karts are always going to be meticulously maintained, but them being brand spanking new, I've never felt any, a kart that feels so tight, and so, I just don't know, it's just so good. Anyway, so we're into Q1. I really thought we were going to need a recovery drive here certainly going to have to learn on the fly. I did manage to finish practice with a 33-second lap time in that sort of ballpark, as you would have seen on the screen. But it still felt like we're going to be miles off. But I had no context, really. Also in practice, I was doing that with no weight. So what they did was they parodied everybody to 90 kilos, which is exactly what you find in league, championship events, etc. to try and level the playing field. Even though this isn't a championship brand or anything like that, it's one of Brad Philpott's events, as I mentioned at the start of this video in my little driving section. We are taking it pretty seriously. The people here, the standard was just unreal. If you look at Group 1, and there was 4 groups in this session, 4 groups of 10 originally were booked up for this, and I think it turned out to be on average about 8 in each session. But if you look at Group 1, for example, they are championship and league level go-karters. This guy, Gary Jones, that's just popped past me here, you'll see how much he manages to gap me by. A, because I'm still getting used to the track, but B, he's like 50 something, I believe, or you know, well into his 50s, but he's here like every week, so he knows it like the back of his hand. He's really, really good, really talented as well. I don't see him for love nor money in any of the finals. I think he actually may have managed to make the A final, but I'll double check that, and you'll see him later on in the video. If he's in one of the other finals, you'll see him. Anyway, look at the gap that he's starting to pull out. He's obviously catching the people in front of him hand over fist as well. We're actually sort of holding our own. I was kind of looking around, looking at the times, looking at the cards on track, etc. Sort of holding our own in this session-ish. There were some people that were kind of just miles ahead, but generally across the board we weren't doing too bad, so I was quite surprised. I really felt like I needed to knock a couple of seconds off my lap time, but again, that was, like I was saying, that was without the context, the fact that these being new cars and everyone was going to be a little bit slower than perhaps they were able to show when they'd been here previously. You can go on the Formula Fast website as well and check out the live timing, so you can see what kind of lap times, etc. people do on daily sessions and stuff like that. Again, I'll link that in the description. As we skip a bit further on, look at the distance that Gary guy has pulled out me. He's caught the next group ahead, so that's going to hold him up a little bit. So as we skip to this next clip, you'll see that we've caught him up a bit, but that's only because he's got caught out, overtaking these karters just here. A couple of other people, in addition to myself, hadn't been to this track before. The guy in front you've seen just now, and you may recognise him from a couple of other Brad Philpott's videos. He is really, really good, and he gets to grips with this track really quickly and ends up basically kind of, I guess in some ways, leaving us for dust. But right now, I've almost got used to this a little bit faster than he has. I don't think he was in the practice session before this event took place, so it might be just that I've got a little bit more knowledge around it, but I'm right on his tail at this moment in time. I felt pretty good about that, to be fair. I'm not going to lie, even though in my head I didn't have this context that I'm speaking to you with now. It was just great that I was able to kind of keep up with someone who has a proper race suit with their name and logos and a karting club branded on and stuff like that. Anyway, so I'm going to leave this just now. Swiftly I'll overtake up the inside here, but I'm going to leave it just now to watch a few of my final laps of Q1, and we'll see how we do. That brings us to the end of the session, so not too bad. Knocked about a second off my lap time from practice, which really felt like it was needed. But knowing that as these karts get warmer, the track grips up a bit more, things are just going to get faster and faster and faster. And to be honest with you, at this point I was not really sure if I was going to be able to go much faster, so I thought I'd probably slip down the order. But anyway, between now and our next session, were a few more, because the order went group 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that was to make sure that everybody got a crack at having well up to temperature and warm karts in similar sort of track conditions, so Group 1 wasn't always disadvantaged. Roll ourselves into Q2. You'll see in a second something that is kind of going to hold us back in this session, to be honest with you. But all that's focused in my mind at this moment is checking that the tyres are warm from the previous session. Kart 18. Now, with hindsight, what I know about Kart 18 is it's not great, to be brutally honest. I'll go through Kart 18's results in a second, but let's get ourselves out on track and I'll explain a bit more about Kart 18. Right, here we go. So let me get a bit of context around Kart 18, because these being brand spanking new karts, they hadn't, Formula Fast go through a process of where they will either improve or slightly worsen certain karts to basically bring as much parity to the go-karts as possible. But because these were so new, they hadn't got the chance to do that yet. So adding little things like additional restrictors and stuff like that to certain karts wasn't able to be done. Kart 11 was so fast that eventually it was removed from the batch. So I'm sure they'll get on top of sorting that out. But again, they were so new; they'd only been there for 2 days, and this is quite a big event. 40 people turned up for this and whatever, plus loads of people to watch and stuff like that. So they just hadn't got around to it. Anyway, Kart 18. So across qualifying and races, Kart 18 did no better than P4, and that was once. So here's the breakdown. Bear in mind, there's roughly 8 people in each session. Kart 18 managed to achieve P6, P7, P9, P6, P4, which is the anomaly, P7, which is me, and you'll see that shortly in this session. And then one that really stands out for me is Alex Van Gien was here. Alex is a friend of Brad. They tend to do quite a lot of events together and stuff like that, which are maybe not official events or championship events, but yeah, where they can cross over and do stuff together, they tend to do it. Alex managed to get a P6 in Kart 18. He was also 4/10 off his fastest lap from the previous session. So hopefully that gives a bit of context, and actually here's a bit more context for you, because Gary's gone past us again in this session, no surprise, but watch how quickly I lose ground to him, even versus the previous session. The thing about Kart 18 for me is it didn't feel necessarily like gutless down the straight or anything like that. It felt like it just had absolutely no grip. Now, I'm sure that's probably not the case, and maybe it's a factor of sort of overcompensating, because as I was seeing my times on the notice boards as I was going around, I was like, I'm just not improving at all. Jesus Christ, I need to make some ground up, noticing that everybody else was making improvements. At the time, with hindsight again, I didn't realise that Kart 18 was certainly at least somewhat contributing to that. So look at the gap he's managed to pull out already. This gap took probably like 2 or 3 laps in the previous session, and now you can't even see him. So I actually ended up boxing to do a practice pit stop. I was like, I'm just firm in the fact that I'm not going to improve in this session. So we'll come in, we'll get a practice pit stop out of the way, which I'll explain more about later. And I guess we'll roll ourselves into the times for this session, which will pop up on screen now, and you'll see that we barely improved. We barely improved. In fact, no, that's the scratch that. We didn't improve at all in this session, which was quite disheartening. And I thought, well, here comes the bottom final and probably struggling for pace versus everyone else. But let's roll ourselves into the next session. Q3. Again, unbeknownst to me at the time, I'd actually got a good kart this time. It did feel like it gripped up a fair bit, but it also felt really punchy out of corners. We're skipping straight into the session and we're going to go straight for our fastest lap. We're not going to mess around. This is our fastest lap, so I'll leave you to watch. Not the best exit out of the final corner, but that is a 32.2, and at that time it was actually good enough for the B final, but people still did improve again, and we ended up getting ourselves knocked down to the C final. However, you'll see how well that looks and how good that looks for us shortly. So there's the times coming in for one last practice pit stop, just to make sure we don't mess things up in the final. And we even got to manage to get a fastest sector in this qualifying. So that lands us in final C, starting P2. I honestly couldn't believe it at this point. I was really surprised that I managed to get myself out of the last final, and especially starting so close to the front. So a bit of information here is the top 2 people in each final get promoted to the final afterwards. So for us, we've got an opportunity to get into B final, which, and if you look at the quality and the standard of people from front to back, every single person qualified within 1.2 seconds of each other. And I know it's a short lap, but there's also people here, like myself, who've never been to this track before, so the quality level was really, really high. And again, like I was saying before, when you factor in people that are championship karters, not to be sniffed at, I want you to pay really close attention to the suit on the guy in front, because that's going to play a factor later. So bear in mind the guy in the blue suit. We don't even get a full lap of formation. As soon as we exit the final turn, which is coming up here, we're going to be straight into the race. And it's go. Maybe not the closest start for us. And then we get absolutely T-boned by the guy behind. Now, you won't have seen who that was, but that guy plays a significant part in this video later. So I'll come back to him, but look at the gap that we've managed to lose. That, to me, bearing in mind how close things are, and obviously bearing in mind he out-qualified me, I thought was just going to be completely insurmountable, and we just need to consolidate P2. So my brain switches from, can I keep up with him, and maybe even challenge to the lead, to being purely focused on keeping the people behind exactly where they are, behind me. So it's a little bit of a scrappy start to the lap, this lap, but you'll see how often I start to look around and check my bumper for how close this guy is, because he's clearly got pace and he's clearly aggressive from what you've seen already of him kind of sticking into the side of us, and I don't think he was hit. He won hits now. That was a viable strategy. However, first of all, you had to pit on lap 2, you could not pit on lap 1. That was banned. Some people still fell for that, despite the fact it was made really clear before we started the event. But some people still did it, and therefore it doesn't count. So he's pitted on lap 2. I actually had a conversation with a guy earlier in the night, and for me, I was thinking to myself, I don't think lap 2 is the right time to pit, because the way I was looking at things was, you want to get some heat into the tyres, and the drop-off of temperature when you come into the pits is going to be, well, basically, if you come in early, you're keeping the tyres colder for longer. You've not given yourself the opportunity to build any heat, and therefore your outlap is probably going to be slower. So for me, my position was, I'm going to pit around sort of lap 5 or 6. We worked out that on average you'll get about 17 laps in for each race, because each race was 10 minutes long. You see how often as well we're looking round to see how close this guy is. Really focused on keeping them behind, because for me, I just thought there's just no way I'm making that ground up. But all will become clear later on in the race. Right, so we come in now. It's a few laps in, maybe not quite the full sort of 5 or 6, but it felt like the right time to get some pressure off myself and get my head down and have some clear laps without much pressure behind me. So exiting the pits. Now in my head at this point, I'm thinking to myself, well, that guy in the blue suit is gone. Like, he's even further ahead because I've got no sight of him whatsoever. I didn't check behind me too much to see, you know, had he mucked up his pit stop or anything like that. Just in my head, I immediately thought he's absolutely miles ahead. So forget it. We're just going to keep checking our six and seeing if we need to keep defending or not. All will come down to whether the guy in P3, as it was at the time, messes up his pit stop, etc. He actually pits on the next lap, so he'll come out directly behind me, which will, well, you will see how often I continue to still look behind me as well, because he pits pretty much straight away. I'm not sure if he thought that was the best thing to cover off. I actually think for him, because in this race specifically, I feel like he was a bit faster than me. If he'd ran a few more laps, I think he would have had the opportunity to probably overtake us. The guy that's just got into the pits there was the guy in last in this race, which is good because we were catching him, and it meant that we didn't have to have any sort of battle or fight over trying to get ahead of him, so he pits at the perfect time for us. Still checking behind. He's right on me. He was on me the whole race. This definitely wasn't our cleanest session. So focused behind us that we were making little micro mistakes here and there, and I just don't think I'd really sort of nailed my lines down. Right, that person in front that's coming in front of us is ahead of us, and if you'll notice, that is not the guy that started the race ahead of us. So I checked the lap time board in a second. I'm like, first of all thinking, damn, I've lost another position. But at this point, I spot on the lap timer board that he's the only person ahead of us. So that guy in the blue suit has lost ground, and as you've just seen just there, Kart 17 with an invalid stop. Who do you think is Kart 17? We're still catching this guy though. I think overall we were quicker, but we were so focused on defending. And again, at this point, I didn't realise he was Kart 17. We're so focused on defending that I basically lost time to this guy that, to be honest with you, I am overall a bit quicker than. And there he goes in again, and he's gone in on the final lap, because there's the checkered flag, and that hands us the victory. I realised pretty much immediately
oh my god, we won! We got an invalid stop, we won! Let's go, we're in the next final! Let's go! My hands are ruined, they're numb! Oh my god! We did it! Get the pit stop right! Let's go! Jesus Christ!
Are you both on the scale sheet?
Oh.
Yeah, good. So if you should be able to draw a card for your next heat now. Can't see you.
So there's the times. Not as quick as my qualifying times, and that's because we spent so much of the race defending. We also squeezed in on the weight. It's 90 kilos, so we're 89.9, fluctuating between that and 90.
So, we made the next final. Because we won, we made the next final. Let's go. holding a good lap. Oh no! I forgot my weight. I forgot my weight.
Got your weight?
Yeah, I needed 10.
10.
I need 10. Thank you.
As we warm my tyres ready for the B final, which again I cannot believe we managed to make. I do just want to say a big thanks to Brad Philpott for arranging this, for his channel members. This was honestly one of the best things I've done all this year. Super competitive, is properly giving me the taste for getting back into go-karting.
Starting second last. We're starting second last because we won the last thing. 2 people go through to the next final. So because we were second last, because we were first, we started second last in this one. Oh, look who's in front. Alex Van Green. Let's see what we can do about him. Let's see. Stars in the cold again. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be really tricky. I'm aching. I'm aching because we've done so much already. Oh my god!
For reference, that is the guy that also T-boned us at the start of the previous race. He was hyper-aggressive. Clearly quick, but hyper-aggressive. You're also not allowed to overtake before the start of the race, so I'm not really sure what he was thinking, but all that's done is cost us both time. Thankfully, nowhere near the amount of time it cost us in the previous race by us coming together. So this is where B final all start to fall apart for me. The guys in front were battling, so I thought, oh, let me not go with my own advice and take an early pit stop, and look what's happened.
That's actually held us up massively. That's really held us up. That's going to cost us.
Essentially, by following someone in, we've put ourselves at massive risk. Now, we were too close to begin with anyway. It was never going to work. But also, if they'd had a slow pit stop or anything gone wrong, that would have just held us up even more. As it stands, it already did hold us up.
Oh my god, no.
And again, because I didn't take my own advice, we've now gone in with low temperature tyres and then come out with even colder tyres instead of getting some heat and temperature into them first. We've boxed too early, we've been held up by someone in front of us, no fault of their own, but we just put ourselves on the back foot massively in this race. and then we were just watching the guy in front start to drive away from us. I was really a little bit down in the dumps at this point. Well, in the grand scheme of things, I wasn't. I was loving life this whole afternoon and whole evening, but feeling like we've got no pace, feeling like we're just getting driven away from. But also, I didn't know, from a context perspective, what position that guy qualified in B final.
No front end.
Big send actually from the guy in front. A few mistakes creeping in as we're trying to push just to see if we do anything about any of the carts in front. I didn't want to spend this whole second race in no man's land thinking I'm probably going to be towards the back. We are starting to chip away at the carts in front, to be fair though. We are starting to get things together, get out of our own head a little bit and focus on just driving as quickly as we possibly can to see if there is any possibility of making any additional ground up.
Oh, fuck off.
If you look a bit ahead, after these two carts in front, there is a little bit of a gaggle of people starting to get quite close together and hopefully starting to fight.
Ah, so he did overtake you at the stop.
It's around this point as well, like, another annoying thing I started to realise is not the guy that's in front of me with the branding on his suit, but the one after is the guy that started behind me. So it proves how much we lost by coming into the pits at the wrong time and getting stuck behind someone, because we're chipping away at both of these guys. We've caught them. So we have the pace there to, well, to have certainly held them off or maybe even be ahead of them. But unfortunately, because of that pit stop, it's now left us behind the pack and hoping that we don't end this way.
Oh, no. We're going to run out of time.
Again, I just want to say a huge thanks to Brad for setting this up in the first place, and everyone at Formula Fast for putting on a fantastic afternoon and evening. Honestly, I can't speak highly enough of everybody there. They were so polite, so accommodating, really supportive in getting things going. when realisation sets in, we were just too late.
Oh, I've loved tonight. This has been amazing. I've absolutely loved tonight. We're competing against proper karters. Like, that is mental. Like, we're not... There's no shame in what we managed to achieve. Alright, we finished third last in this final, but we made the B final. On pace